Hello, everyone, and welcome to this overview of the competitive intelligence team, part of the marketing functional conversations. So I'm going to give you a little quick overview about what we do, and I look forward to your questions later on as well. So first of all, this is the competitive intelligence team, which includes me, Joe Kempton. I am the senior product marketing manager, focusing entirely on competitive intelligence. And that's it. It's just me in the team for the time being. So any questions, bring them my way. But hopefully over time, we will be building out the team and making it more comprehensive as we go as well. So what, in terms of an overview, what exactly is the point of the competitive intelligence team, and what are we here for? So there are several areas which we touch, and some of them are more relevant to us now, especially as we're sort of building out this competitive intelligence team, and some will be will grow in complexity as well as the team evolves. So sales enablement is probably the biggest element that I do currently. This is sort of a regular sort of daily task for me in terms of being able to help sales teams with content, with collateral, with advice and guidance to be able to better understand competitors, better understand what we can use to beat our competitors in the field, what sort of tips and tricks we can share from other people, and how best we can beat our major competitors in the field. So that's probably the largest chunk of what I do at the moment. Secondly, product direction. So obviously we want to take a look at what our competitors are doing with their products and see how we can change our product roadmap as well accordingly to be more focused on things that either where we have a significant advantage over our competitors, or where we need to fill in gaps that we have with competitors' roadmaps as well. This also then leads into guidance with pricing as well, because this is something that we track with our competitors' pages. We can understand how they've been changing their pricing over time and whether we need to adapt. We also analyze competitor and GitLab reviews as well, so we understand how we are positioned, and a part of that pricing guidance also comes through from our Salesforce data. So understanding where we win and where we lose is key to understanding, whether it's a product gap that we have, or a pricing issue, or perhaps it's other elements like the sales team or so on. And then also there's elements with marketing narratives, right? So for example, a key point that we started talking about is DevSecOps rather than DevOps, and how does that work in the market, and how have we seen the narrative of our competitors change, and should we be changing accordingly? And then there are other elements like investor relations and and analyst relations, where we can assist with being able to provide more in-depth comparisons with understanding what our competitors are doing, particularly with being able to update companies like Gartner, for example, when they're looking to update an MQ, or with the investor relations when we've got investors asking us specific questions about how we feel about competitors in this market as well. So how are we aiming to go around achieving these goals? Well, so these are the sort of FY24 big rocks that I've got to undertake this year. So first of all, in terms of sales enablement, this is a key one really, is expanding our sales battle cards. I've just called them battle cards, and they should be called competitive cards. So I will need to change that on this slide. But what we will do is have more competitive cards, where we talk about, we give guidance to the sales team. So it's more of a self-serve capability, and it doesn't require so much of me having to dive into all of these different deals. It'll be much more simple for the sales teams to jump in that way. And we have started rolling out a new competitive intelligence platform, which I'll talk about later, which will help us do that. Within that tool, we also have department-specific competitive intel boards, again, which I'll talk about, but that's a great way of being able to provide that guidance for the product team, for the marketing team, for the sales team, splitting that all out individually. We're also aiming to roll out a third-party in-depth win-loss tool, which will basically be able to analyze our Salesforce figures, but then also use that as an opportunity to have a deep dive conversation with prospects and with customers and find really where we were winning and where we were losing, but get better guidance about where we have been really changing our strategy and how that's been working over time. We also want to develop our externally facing website assets. So we've got 2 competitive pages at the moment, and we're hoping to develop them in a bit more of a go-to-market friendly way. That was really sort of spearheaded by Sid, wanting to have this very transparent approach to competitive intelligence. And then finally, really the sort of by the end of the year, really what we want to have is a competitive intelligence feedback loop. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the sort of feedback loop, this is really what we envisage when we talk about the feedback loop. So first of all, we talk about what it's really the direction that we want to go in. We want to identify the key business needs and gaps that we have in existing knowledge. So see where we don't know, what we need to know. And then the next stage is discovery. So going around identifying and sourcing that competitive intelligence, using a competitive intelligence tool, a platform to find that intelligence. Then we want to add analysis to it to give it that so what, an insight behind it, to be able to not just give out news, but to give a reasoning behind it and a logic behind it, and also to essentially give our teams the tools that they need to be able to leverage that insight in a useful way. So then we need to disseminate that information, so communicate that through various competitive channels. So whether that's through dedicated Slack channels, or whether that's through presentations that I give, or on SCO, for example, giving presentations. Those are all part of the disseminating of the information. And different information will be communicated in different ways and will be absorbed differently by different people as well. So it's important that we have lots of different channels that people can go through to get their competitive intelligence. And then finally, that needs to be turned into an action and feedback. So we want to, when people have that information, we then want to check and see, has that changed our capability to sell against a particular competitor? Have we got better outcomes as a result? Have we updated our product roadmap and our marketing? And then does that impact how prospects see us? And that's something we can track. And obviously that then turns into a cycle where we then hopefully have fixed issues that we know about, but then we come up with other gaps as the market evolves and as our competitors evolve as well. So these are the various tools that we're using in the competitive intelligence team. And I've split these into external and internal. So I'm hoping that some of you have at least seen the external competitive pages that we've got. We've got 2, one of a DevOps tools page, one of a competition page, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But then we also have these various internal tools as well. So we have a new competitive intelligence platform, Crayon, which I'll show you in more detail. We have a #competition Slack channel, which I hope you're all a part of. And if you're not, I really encourage you to join it, because it's a great way of just being able to transparently and collaboratively combine competitive intelligence and make sure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to understanding how we sit in the market and what the updates are from our competition as well. We are then also in the process of procuring a win-loss tool, which is probably going to be closed. And that's going to help us, as I mentioned, better dive into those third-party interviews with companies to understand where we're winning and we're losing. And also, ultimately, as another source of competitive intelligence, we have the HighSpot page, where we're trying to combine all of those different assets which people have created over time, whether they are specifically externally facing one pages, whether they are competitive cards, which will be embedded via an iframe through from Crayon into HighSpot, or whether they will be other ROI calculators or anything like that, which will be really useful for the team. So that's the way that we split it. So HighSpot, we have a dedicated competitive intelligence page, which is really useful for people to go to find their competitive information. And one of my challenges this year is to make sure this is a bit more user-friendly in terms of being able to find information better, and splitting up between an externally facing bit of content and internally facing bit of content for education. So that will be a key task of mine. I talked a bit about the competition pages, so I would encourage you as well to go and check those out. These again are one of the big projects that I've been working on over the past couple of months, couple of quarters even. So this is the competition page where we directly compare ourselves against what we consider the best-in-class competitor and GitHub as well. And that's a really great way for our sales team both to understand and educate themselves on how we compare, but also as a tool to encourage the product team to identify the gaps that we have and how we need to go around developing new capabilities to beat the competition. And then we also have ranked ourselves within the DevOps tools page. So against our competition, how we think we position ourselves in each stage. Crayon is our new competitive intelligence platform, and this is something that we've yet to embed with Okta. Hopefully that will be available with an SSO in the next few weeks. Fingers crossed. It's sort of it's in the process of going through that, but we have procured it. It is available. I just want to make it simple and open for everyone to use, but I'll quickly guide you through what the capabilities are with this platform, because I think this is probably the most interesting and exciting tool that we can use, particularly within marketing, but more broadly across the company as well. So I'll quickly dive into the Crayon tool itself. So this is what Crayon looks like overall, and we've got a great way to be able to divide between insights, which are the sort of searches that we run, and being able to see what our competitors have done in terms of changes on their websites, or how their pricing has changed, or what news they've launched, or what reviews they've got recently. We've also got battle cards as well, which is more for the sales team and is a more in-depth guided process of talking us through how we compare to our competitors. And then boards as well, which is something I'd love to develop with the team, and basically explains it has a dedicated area for the marketing team to come and understand how competitive insights have changed as well. So for example, on this particular search that we have here within Insights, this is how their messaging and how competitors' messaging and positioning has changed over the past 14 days. And a really interesting one is this synopsis page, which we can click into and see the difference on the page over the past couple of weeks and how it's changed. And particularly when we were talking about DevSecOps being a key element that we've recently been talking about, where you can see that the graphic that they've got on their website has changed significantly and become far more complex. But also this really helps us think about how our competitors are viewing the market and how they've changed over time as well. So elements like this are a really useful tool as a marketing team for us to understand narratively how we should be shifting our focus, how our competitors have shifted their focus. And so what I've tried to do is to take some of this information and put it in a board. So we have a dedicated marketing board, and essentially what we've got is various searches combined together, which will help us understand our competitors from a marketing perspective. So for example, here we've got how many various changes our competitors have made to their website over the past 90 days. And you can see here, GitHub has really done a lot of competitive changes over time, particularly, within around November time. And this, we can sort this by the number of competitors. I can split this up. We can deep dive into these competitors as well. And then I've got that search, which I just showed you before about the last 2 weeks in terms of messaging and positioning changes, and all of that information is listed here. So as a marketing team, you can go in. This is a self-serve capability to understand these changes, and this is the dedicated synopsis change here. So this is something I'd love to build out with the team as well, so that we can get much more in-depth insights. There's a whole load of metrics we can capture here. It's not just about marketing and positioning, but I thought that would be the most relevant for this team. And then obviously as well, we've got the standard sort of battle cards. So particularly looking for example, this is for Sneak. We can take a look at how the company looks overall. We can look at where we win and what we need to do in order to beat Sneak, what kind of concerns might come up, their pricing, and so on and so on. So there's loads of elements here that we can add into these battle cards. So I just want to touch on some themes that we want to be thinking about over the next year. And this is really as a way for you to help you think about how you might be utilizing the competitive intelligence team. So these are sort of 4 key elements, which I think would be quite useful. First of all, AI and machine learning. I think this is one element that everyone's talking about at the moment. We can do some research in terms of how impactful is Copilot, what are we doing in response, and how likely is that transformation going to be in the market. We can think about security. So security is obviously a huge piece for us to talk about, and what are we doing in order to compete with security, and what's our messaging around DevSecOps in the market looking like in comparison to our competitors. Then we had a really interesting conversation with Gartner recently where they talked about platform washing and how a lot of our competitors are talking about trying to get closer to providing this platform approach, but they can't actually provide the platform. So who is specializing in their niche and who's actually eroding our differentiation by talking about platforms? And then finally, competitor roadmaps. So we're in a very fortunate position in that a lot of our competitors simply publish their competitor roadmaps in the same way that we do. And so that's a great way that we can glean anything from their releases and understand what the big bets that they're making are. And so I just wanted to end really with a sort of sign off, which is that, clearly competitive intelligence relies on everyone taking part and everyone contributing. If you haven't already, please join the hashtag competition page because it's a great way for us to source competitive intelligence. And it's just a really helpful tool that means that you guys can be kept abreast of all the different competitive intelligence that's going on in GitLab and can contribute as well. Thanks a lot.